What is going on, everybody? Welcome to week 9 of Francis and Friends. I'm so happy that you're back here to enjoy all the fine things that we do here. We got through Halloween, and let me tell you something that I learned about kids. A lot of them are scumbags. A lot of them are. And I know what I'm going to do next year, by the way, because this is what I do now. I leave a bowl out there. Yeah, the police take one bowl, but if you I allow way more than one. But I put it out there to see. I want to see what lives in these kids, because these kids, they treat Halloween like it's the purge. All bets are off for 24 hours. And you know what? Next year, I'm gonna strike back. It's called trick or treating, right? It's not called treat and then that's it. I'm going to have the loudest Bose speaker known to man out there. It's going to be tucked. And if these kids, I'm going to be watching them through the Ring camera, if they take more than what I deem a standard child's allotment of candy, and where are their parents, by the way? Who the hell knows? I am going to blast them with the loudest Exorcist sound you've ever heard in your life. Like, you know, when people send you those mazes, like, and you're follow the worm and you're looking real closely and then, bah! They're getting blasted with that. And then in like a purge voice, you're going to hear, "You've taken more than your allotment of candy." And then I'm going to post it online so that these people know who they are. That's what I just did last week. Isn't this such a great time of year? Now is when you take the jack-o'-lantern and turn it around. You still see pumpkins on people's porches because it's that random Thanksgiving, kind of season. Are there any Thanksgiving movies? Somebody just dropped that when we were watching football on Sunday. They were like, I just watched a ton of horror movies. We know there's a ton of are there any Thanksgiving movies? We all drew blanks. So maybe when we bring on a couple of guests here, we got Dave and Greg coming. Greg, the $1 Million Man. Ted DiBiase, as I like to call him. I'm looking at his timeline. He's winning bets. He's winning tournaments. I don't watch basketball, but I might start after talking to him and asking him about that. For me, it was a tough NHL betting week for me. My sniffs went awry. I was a little congested earlier in the week. And sometimes when that happens for me, I have a little side chick that I like to call DFS that I don't talk about too much on here. But we know both of those guys, they talk DFS on a regular basis. And DFS always coincides, daily fantasy sports. It always coincides with a lot of the props and player picks that we give on here. So I'm going to run some of them or some of those picks by those guys, see what they think about it, and see if we can get in on those stacks of cash that Greg has had. And you know what always kills me? And I'm going to ask him about this. And I just feel this as like an overarching theme. Many times you see people on the Odd Shopper channel here. I mean, they're going on a legendary tears. And then I'm looking down there. I'm like, this has got to have 600,000 retweets. There's like some guy from Kentucky. He's like, "Oh, nice, man. I tailed it." You see all these YouTube commercials like, "Hey, you need some money? Come work on this." And it's just scam job after scam job after scam job. You got Greg dishing out his Odd Shopper premium picks. He's got a green stock exchange chart that's going through the roof. They say the economy's bad. People are saying, "I can't survive on a dime." Well, if they're following some of these picks, maybe they would be surviving. So I don't know what's going on. I've always thought that the algorithm conspired against me. But now I'm convinced it's conspiring against you, the good people of Gotham, because you guys should definitely be following these guys. How about we bring on, should we go Greg or Dave first? Wheel of Fortune?
I got to go Greg, after this. So bring me on, and then Greg, and all of that great teaser content you just did flies out the window.
What do you mean? It's the.
I mean, it was a great intro, but it's tough bringing me in first. You got to do it though. I got to go.
What do you mean? Of course, dude. You get appetizers and then you get the big meal. Sometimes I eat dessert first. I do that all the time. I'm a huge dessert first guy. Dave, what's going on, my man? I know. Were you out there tricking and treating with the fam?
You're a man after my own heart. I'll tell you this much: I didn't just win 100K, but do I have a brilliant Halloween idea? I tweeted this the other day too. You'll appreciate it. So you're going to hit them with like the jump scare music, which I can appreciate, right?
Yeah.
scare the shit out of them there. The plan I have, this was from one of our DFS shows, and I want to wait. My daughter's, she'll be 3 in March. I want to wait till she's old enough, 3.5, to appreciate the fear that I will strike into the hearts of 8, 9, 10, 11-year-olds alike. So I'm going to get a costume where it looks like I'm just filled with straw, right? Where I'm fake. And I'm going to hit the slump with the candy bowl up. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Please take one. And it's gonna, the kids always trick or treat in groups. I'm not gonna hit like the 4-year-olds walking around with their family, although there was this appalling video that I saw on Twitter of a family with the mom and whoever
Yeah.
coming up and emptying the whole thing. And unbelievable. I mean,
that's the video that made me think it's the purge out
Yeah.
there. The only thing that was missing was the
Yeah.
I was picturing Ethan Hawke on the other side of that door.
Yeah, but Andy, here's the thing. When I was a kid, and I'm regretful for my behavior and actions, I did the same thing. But my mom wasn't running around encouraging me to do it. I was a lost soul. I have since changed my ways, and I'm regretful. I'm remorseful, and now I'm becoming the man that I would have hated as a child. That's probably a good thing. But what I plan on doing is hitting them with the slump. I'm gonna stuff, like, I'm gonna go get the jean overalls, stuff them with hay. I'm gonna look as fake as possible. But there's always that suspicion in kids that, like, that might be a real person. So if it's a group of 5, they're all a little suspicious, right? The first one comes up, they take one because they don't know. The second one comes up, still a little bit suspicious, they take one. Third one, I still don't move. I'm as still as you can get, right? Once the 4th and 5th come up, they've, the guard is let down. Kind of consensus now becomes, this is not a real person. And when they go in for the handful, it's over. It's over. I'm going to ruin their Halloween.
Allow me, a perpetual horror movie watcher, to help you out to truly cement that, because
please,
they might. Don't put it past them. Don't put it past these gargoyles to know that you're just waiting to go nuts on them. If you really want to get them, the decoy, there's got to be a double scarecrow. It can't just be you, a human-sized scarecrow that isn't matching everything else. It's like standard ornaments, and then this fully grown man of a scarecrow. You need to build a second scarecrow that's a decoy one that's bigger than you, which would make them think if either of them is an actual person, it's going to be that massive one, slightly bigger than you.
That's a good idea. Maybe I should even have that one holding the candy.
Yeah, we can work out. Fortunately, we have a solid year to work out the details.
Yeah, but it's happening.
Good, because it needs to. The revenge. That's great. We were scumbags as kids, and now we say we're reformed just to be scumbags as adults. Now,
no, I'm trying to reform these kids sooner than I was reformed. That's all. I'm doing God's work out here, man.
Well, now we're reforming parents, apparently.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, when it comes to you, I always love bringing up the Eagles first. I feel like you're as level-headed as a person as you can be. And I bring it up because it's one of the most kind of public bet games on the week. People are really loving the Eagles here. And while there have been times that I have trusted the Cowboys in spots where I wish I didn't, the last time I think I brought them up to you, or no, that was I brought up the Steelers to you, but I took the Cowboys last week against the Rams, but because I was very underwhelmed by the Rams. This is a little different. When the Cowboys play better teams, they've been cracked almost every single time. You have any initial feelings? I think the Eagles still haven't really played their best football, and they're winning these games. I can only imagine when they actually do get it together. What do you feel for this one here?
Yeah, it's fun. Like last week, they were -6.5 for when I did my video on Wednesday, and I was like, that it feels like we should be betting the Washington side, but I got to go Philly here, just because they're a far better. If you got the 6.5, you won. If you got the 7, it pushed. But same with Miami, where you see the 9.5, you're like, man, it moved through 10. That's weird. Still felt like there was too much value on Miami, too much overhype on the Patriots. I don't mind taking those sides of bets. This one's a little bit different, but at the same time, the Eagles should have scored 52 points last week. right? I mean, they had a goal line fumble from Kenny Gainwell, a goal line fumble from Jalen Hurts on the fumbled snap. It was an ugly game, and they still dropped 38 points. The defense was clearly an issue, but they. You look at a team like this, Micah Parsons, his kryptonite has been Lane Johnson throughout his career. This is one of these spots, honestly, where I feel like the Eagles rout them or they lose outright. That's the type of game that this feels like. I lean Philly -3 in a spot like this. I feel like at home they can rout them or they get beat. And at that point, it is what it is. But, the truth is, and you mentioned this, they've made so many mistakes that have yet to be cleaned up. Some of them have, some of them haven't. And they're still 7-1.
That's what I'm saying. Like one of these weeks, and I would prefer this if I was an Eagles fan. I mean, there couldn't be a better start to me. Every year, I'm friends with a couple Bengals supporters, and they always get worried about early in the year. Now, yes, if you fall to 1-5, it's going to be hard to dig your way out. Give me that team that's running red hot going into the playoffs, opposed to a team that's dominating early and then stumbling. So the fact that the Eagles aren't even falling behind in the standings, the fact that they're staying up there and haven't really hit that stride is a great thing. But from a DFS perspective, do you think this game is one that can push? We've seen Dak have back-to-back good games through the air. And now this Eagles team, when people are playing on DraftKings and they click on Dak, they see like that 28th ranking or whatever in terms of like matchups. And that always tempts people. You think that Eagles secondary is going to, or the line's going to get through to Dak to the point where he doesn't have any time to find these guys? Because that offense is warming up through the air and the Eagles have been stuffing the run. And it's not like Pollard has been able to do what they had hoped on the ground. Hasn't been nearly explosive.
No running back's been able to, right? No running back against this team. And Jalen Carter's getting full practices in, so it looks like he's going to be fine. They've got some behemoths on that defensive line. It makes a difference. From a DFS standpoint, yeah. And the simplest thing, look at DFS. You talk about a main slate. So for those of you guys new to DFS, the biggest contests are always the Sunday games in the 1 o'clock and 4 o'clock window combined. There's 10 of them this week. The totals in these games, 44, 41, 38, 37, 40, 41, 38.5, 44, and then 47 in this Philly and Dallas game. Definitely. Jalen Hurts got that knee, may not run as much, but A.J. Brown's been a monster. Devontae Smith, all of these guys, no issues there whatsoever. I like DeAndre Swift in this spot. I'm still not opposed to the Dak Prescott stacks. You have CeeDee Lamb, and then again, DFS pricing is important. You have cheap guys like Cooks and Gallup and Ferguson. But essentially, the Philly side I like more in this game. They've been more consistent, and you have guys that just week in and week out, like Jalen Hurts and A.J. Brown, have been dominant. So at home, 3-point favorites. Could this shoot out? Sure. Of course it could. It's the highest total on the slate, second highest on the week behind, or third highest on the week behind Bills, Cincy, and then that Frankfurt, Germany game between Miami and Kansas City. But yeah, there's some really ugly games on Sunday afternoon, man. Some really ugly games.
Very ugly. Very ugly. One guy that I want to ask you about in that game, I don't want to say he's been a nemesis, but he's been close to it. And last week, is that a breakout or is he going to go back to inconsistent? I'm talking about Devontae Smith.
Yeah. It's tough.
They got him with a low wide receiving total in a game like this. And it's not like we know that the corners on the Cowboys are beatable. The whole thing is their line getting through? I mean, you saw what Purdy did to them. Like if the line holds up against the Cowboys, they don't have cornerbacks who are going to be able to stop really talented wide receivers. And like, I'm just thinking, I'm seeing that total. I'm like, my God, he should be able to crush that.
Yeah. I've talked till I was blue in the face about that Washington secondary that anybody can come in there and dominate them, right? I mean, Tyrod Taylor threw for 250 plus against them. Desmond Ridder dominated them. Hurts 300 plus yards each time he played. You go all the way back. The only game that a team has struggled is Josh Dobbs in week 1. So Devontae Smith busted coverage. They left him wide open for that touchdown, but he still had 7 for 99. I'm seeing 48.5 on this right now. Is there a lower number out there? I can pull it up on OddsShopper, as a matter of fact. You're talking about Devontae Smith receiving props, right? So
yeah.
48.5. Yeah, it looks like 48.5 is the best number, except BetMGM has it at -110. So that's pretty nice there. Pinnacle has it at -114. So look, it's where it should be across all of the books. But yes, 48.5 in this spot where they have one of the higher totals on the slate, higher total game. He's not just going to disappear. Plus, Devontae Smith still has by far the second highest target share on this team. It's around like 22%. It's not like he's getting 13% of targets. So he's still involved. He's not going to keep dropping passes like that. The guy works hard as hell. I don't think this is something that we should just be expecting week in and week out. If you mitigate it, if you erase those drops, he's giving you 100+ yard games in back-to-back weeks. So over 48.5, I assume that's a spot you're leaning. I have no issues with that. I'll co-sign that with you.
Yeah, 1000%. And the good news is he ain't beating it by, you're not getting 50 yards. I feel like if he's clearing it by a good 30 or 40. So, in those type of instances, I like putting a little bit on that over and then a little alt over. And there are a couple guys like that. I don't know if you want to maybe call this one a sniff, because I tend to see certain matchups and I envision games going a certain way. I go, this type of game is going to benefit this type of guy's playing style. And I'm staring at DK Metcalf, who has a relatively low total, priced kind of, I don't know. It depends what your stance is on DK Metcalf, but against a defense that's going to try to play very physical. And we've seen them be physical. We saw it a couple weeks ago at home against Detroit. He's that type of guy that you go to in a game like that. I'm really thinking this is one of the best spots for him all year. And also, when it comes to DraftKings, when people see that red matchup next to his name, I feel like it kind of scares people away a little bit. Or maybe if they want to go with someone, they go with the slightly cheaper Tyler Lockett or something like that. But I really love me some DK Metcalf this week. If I were to tell you it's week 3 and his yardage totals at 50, somewhere in the 50s, I think you're getting very excited. It's the same player. He should be healthy. I think that today was like a maintenance day in practice. He's a guy that I'm really liking this weekend.
Matter of fact, go over to Odd Shopper right now. DK Metcalf, 54 receiving yards on Caesars at -101, essentially even money. We have that as one of our higher rated bets for the entire NFL week. It's a Caesar specific spot. Essentially no juice on that. -101. So look, the tools, the market-based approach is backing up everything you're saying here. 4% EV. Yeah. We've got the true odds at -109. Pinnacle has it at -115. That looks like a spot, whether you're looking analytically or whether you're looking from a market-based approach, we're trying to find discrepancies on the books that aren't lining up with the sharp books. Yeah, DK Metcalf over 54.5 receiving yards looks real good.
Well, let's hope it looks real good on Sunday night, because I'm going to be playing a fair bit of him this weekend. And then just one more game that I wanted to kind of look at, unless you wanted to drop something my way. It was a rather disappointing week for the Houston offense last week, but they were relatively reliable before that. Obviously, the whole thing with Stroud not throwing an interception for so long, but another week without Robert Woods, and you're getting fair prices and fair prop numbers on both Nico Collins and Tank Dell. But I think I'm honestly looking at Nico Collins more specific. This is a guy who's had like 11 targets in multiple games, something relatively preposterous. He's one of these sneaky, like wide receiver one-ish type players with the role that he has and the amount of work that he gets, that I just think maybe people, because anytime somebody screws you the week before, I'm convinced it kind of scares people the following week. So whether we're talking about a prop perspective or just some of those Texans together, in whether you're stacking them or whatnot, how are you viewing that game overall with Houston being at home?
I have 2 spots I'll give you to close this out before you bring Greg on, but I don't have a good read on Houston right now. I'm a little bit concerned that the inevitable regression with CJ Stroud is setting in. The run game there is not. It's not really serviceable. Dameon Pierce has taken a massive step back. They've been leaning more heavily on Devin Singletary. take that for what it's worth. And as good as CJ Stroud has played, now I think this team is pretty well coached, all things considered. A young squad, a lot of guys that won't be there next year. You and I mean, I can see what you're looking at as far as Robert Woods being sidelined. To me, though, this is just one of these spots that I don't have a good read on it one way or another. There's only 4 teams on bye, so outside of Thursday
it's a good
night
thing, Dave. You think I need some guy coming up on here? Oh, let me tell you about these Texans. If there's no feeling, then
for sure.
I have many.
Well, what I was getting
like
at though is that we have, outside of that Thursday night football game, we still have like 13 other games to choose from. I'm going to pick my spots on those for sure.
Well, how about it's a perfect segue into one of those spots.
Mm-hmm.
Is there something, whether it's dictated by the numbers that you're pulling or something that you have your own personal insight on? Why don't you steer me towards something that will bring me a little bit closer to Greg in the standings there?
So I grabbed this at 7.5, but I still think the Cleveland Browns at -8.5 are a good bet this week. Deshaun Watson's expected to start. Rumors had been that it was going to be Clayton Tune, a 5th round rookie that was expected to start. It's possible that Kyler Murray gets to start, but he's coming back after an ACL. Even if he were to start, that's a pretty tough position for Kyler Murray to be in, coming out of being out for like a calendar year or whatever it was. Cleveland's still at -8.5 in a lot of spots. I don't mind it. Again, got it 7.5, full disclosure, but 8.5 doesn't bother me. Watson's expected to start. All the reports are that in practice, he's actually looks like he's been way healthier than he has been since he tried to return last time. This Arizona team is bad. If Clayton Tune starts, I would, bet this up to 10, but you know what I mean? Like the Cleveland.
I agree with you, by the way. I mean, I fully agree with you. The Cleveland, I feel like the only chance is if they go on the road and maybe the D underwhelms. I feel like at home, their D is devouring teams.
Dominant. Yeah, we saw what they did to San Francisco. So Cleveland. And then there's one other spot that I wanted to get your thoughts on, because I've seen people going both ways on this one. Sharp people. Pro bettors. Where are you going in Colts, Carolina? Colts are 2.5-point road favorites.
I do always want to remind people who are watching this, Dave, Greg, many of the guys, every single guy that you see on here, other than me, but who knows if you want to call me a guy, they are the sharps. They are the pros. Do you see how I got a name up? Dave's got charts up right away. That's kind of not me. So just always know that with me, you're getting more nostrils than you are, like analytics. So I always want to preface by saying that. Many times people are like, yeah, you're
enough
one of
with
my
the filibustering, Andy. Where are you at on the Colts?
No, man. I've had some guy put his tuition on shit. I'm like, yo.
I'm joking.
I'm an ex-hockey player who did some stand-up and fucking died in a Conan O'Brien sketch. You want to trust me with your kids' tuition payments? Yeah, you would like that. They superimposed me on a scene in Lincoln, the movie, and I get shot in the background. They put that on Conan O'Brien. Yeah, you believe it? So what the hell bet did you ask me about?
Colts and Panthers. Where's your lean? Panthers are 2.5-point favorites on the road. Colts coming off their first win, but it was an ugly one.
That's on the road? How could they be favored on the road? There's no way they're favored in Indianapolis.
I'm sorry, Colts are 2.5-point favorites on the road. Panthers coming off. Did I mix them up? Panthers coming off the first one. Panthers are at home. They're 2.5-point dogs.
Yeah, we call that a rat bastard line, where if it was at 3.5, I would feel more inclined to take Carolina. I mean, how about this? I can weasel in another quick DFS take. If there's a week that you're going to see Jonathan Taylor probably smash, this will be one of them, right? With that work kind of incrementally going up, and he's with his like snap percentages going up, assuming he didn't get hurt because he didn't play in that second half. Oh man, how about this? I'm going with what you went with on the last pick. I can't pick confidently. If I have to think this long, it means that I already don't have an answer. But in a pick'em where I had to pick every single thing in like an office pool, I'll just go with the home team getting points, coming off a win. Disgusting.
I get it. I'm
What do
going
you got?
Colts. I'm going Colts just only because they're inside a field goal. But I only ask you because this is one of those games where I'm seeing so many differing perspectives on it. And some people are buying into the Panthers offense being better under a new offensive coordinator.
No.
I'm just having trouble getting there, man. They kicked a game-winning field goal to win fucking 15-13 or whatever it was.
Yeah, they're bad.
Yeah, I'll believe it when I see it.
But like it's so weird that the Colts are one of these teams. I feel like we have one of these every single year. Oh my God, did you see how they stacked up? Did you see how they played against like the Browns? They really moved. And then they'll play some awful team and they'll be garbage. It's like a perplexing, weird thing where they play up to lose and then also play down to lose.
Well, that's
I
the
don't know how to
Chargers
describe
too.
that.
The Chargers are like the kings of that.
Yeah, but they can crack a bad team, as you saw the other night. You
Sure,
know, like
sure, yeah. The Saints are another one. Like there's a few
that's
teams
Derek
out there
Carr.
like that.
That's Mr. 500 himself. You can put, you know what's funny? I always theoretically said you can create the worst division in the NFL. You could have no other quarterbacks playing. You can give him the best roster. He'll find a way to go 8-8. And now that they've added an extra game, he'll find a way to go 8-1. That guy's Mr. 500, and he might do it. He's on the way, losing games he shouldn't, and they're going to be 500. Check down spec. You tweeted something before about him throwing long balls. I can't let you fall for it. I have to help somebody out every year. It's an illusion of long balls that Derek Carr throws. Throwing long balls or deep passes, that means that somebody is like, kind of like we were watching Levis, constantly looking for deep passes. Carr strategically chucks deep passes that are always out of bounds, always intentionally pass receivers. Many of his deep passes are like throwaway. He's been a check down specialist his whole life, and that's why so many receivers haven't really worked with him, all their draft picks and whatnot. He's an all-time scam artist, just like Phillip Rivers, checking his way down to the Hall of Fame, and that's all I'm going to end with on Derek Carr. Another year. I'm going to miss him, though, because I've been bashing on him and Rivers for 20 years, it seems, and once he's gone, I got nobody left. My whole goal was to show people those two were no good. I got no one left.
Rashid Shaheed, though, man. Go back and look at that, too. Rashid Shaheed on the deep ball has been dominant this year. Everybody else, garbage.
Yeah, weirdly enough, I do think Chris Olave finds a way to finally have a good week. So, Dave, thank you for coming on. I don't know why I decided to do that. Now we got Derek Carr staring at me with his eyeliner. I ain't going to make him any tougher. All I see is that guy who's yelling at his teammates.
Appreciate it, man.
But now take it easy, man. Go find yourself a good costume. We only got 361 days till we got to roll it out.
We're extending the doorbell camera to like 3 minutes just to make sure every time there's motion, we catch absolutely everything. It's going to be a
100% wide angle. Make sure the wide angle's turned on.
Man. Damn right.
All right. Now we're going to bring on Greg, who maybe is going to turn me on to basketball. It's going to be a tough sell. Maybe we can talk about this. Oh man, I don't even know his name. Wemba. I don't know, something like that. But I'm watching videos of this rookie. He looks like one of those balloons that you see in front of a car wash with the arms going up all over the place. I'm seeing some crazy screenshots. I don't even know if they're photoshopped or whatnot. We got Greg up in here yet?
Am I on now?
Can you hear me, Greg?
I can hear you.
Hopefully
I don't know if I'm on or not. I'm trying to figure out the flow of the show. I was messaging earlier because we had the share screen on. It showed all of us on. I did DM Mike on Slack. I was like, am I on the show right now? Am I supposed to be saying stuff? Because I wasn't sure, because we saw the screen with all of us on. I was like, am I just sitting here not saying something? He's like, no. It's going to be your time. So I guess now is my time. But yeah, it's Victor Wembanyama. He is the arguably the best rookie we've ever seen come into the NBA. 19 years old. He is 13 feet tall. He can do a little bit of everything. And like you said, he's the wacky, wavy, inflatable, flailing arms tube man from Family Guy. And he's just limbs on top of limbs.
Is it going to last? Because every time you see one of these huge guys come into everybody from like Yao Ming to anybody who's crazy, lanky, and limmy, like they look like the Nightmare Before Christmas character. It seems like it's hard for those guys to last. It's a lot of joints to keep healthy over there.
Yeah, so I do find that to be pretty overblown. Like, you can't say for sure that somebody isn't going to get hurt or they are going to get hurt. But actually, somebody brought that up to me on Twitter earlier where they said, What about Yao Ming? Yao Ming made the NBA Hall of Fame. If you're saying that like a bad case scenario for him is that he's a Hall of Fame caliber player, like you've done okay for yourself.
Did Yao Ming end up having a great NBA career, or was that because, you know, it's weird sometimes. Sometimes there are hype Hall of Fames and there are, like, you know, raw statistics. You need X amount to get in. There's the WWE Hall of Fame, which Drew Carey is in. I don't know how the host of The Price is Right, who I literally went on on a trip to Las Vegas with. Yes, Drew Carey. I don't know how he got in the WWE Hall of Fame, so maybe it's one of those. I wonder in the Pro Hall of Fames, you know, of the big four sports, if there are any wacky characters are in there for some contributions. Maybe we'll figure that out at another date. But maybe I'll why he plays on the Spurs, right?
Yeah, so Wemby is on the Spurs, and Yao Ming did have a very, very good career. Now, it's not like he played crazy late into his career, but he was in the NBA from 2002 until 2009. He ended up getting hurt. Then he retires in 2011. But still, you know, he had a pretty good run as far as his peak went. It lasted about 7 years, and he was one of the most dominant players over the course of that time. And he was good in like his second year. He was an all-star caliber type player. So yeah, he did have a really good career, but there are also other aspects that go into the NBA Hall of Fame. So he didn't only get in just because of his NBA play, even though he was very good at his peak. Part of it also is that a lot of his influence in the NBA spread the popularity of basketball to Asia and to China. So it is also partly his other contributing factors to the game that gets him into the Hall of Fame. But with that said, still, like, he was a very, very good all-star player. He was in the all-star game a handful of times.
Hey, I'm not opposed to that. In my opinion, there's a 0% chance Hideki Matsui shouldn't be in the baseball Hall of Fame. I never seen a guy like that. He didn't give a rat's ass how big the moment was. Came through with clutch hits, won a World Series MVP. He came here at like 33. I feel like he's a guy who just started a new career. I was like, yeah, I'm gonna go over there play some baseball, and he was amazing. So I don't really doubt any of that. Let's talk about some of those DFS hits you got. I know we were giving out some NFL picks. Is basket? Do you have a specialty, or are you across the board DFS? Like,
so basketball is where I'm most profitable overall. So I guess from that standpoint, you could say that is my specialty. But I play a number of DFS sports. I play a lot of baseball, play a lot of basketball, play a lot of football, MMA DFS every weekend. So there's a handful of things. I got into tennis DFS a little bit this year. So different things. It's all, you know, like, I don't know shit about tennis, but I was somewhat profitable just because it's data, it's numbers.
Good. I like that, because anytime I get to interact with somebody who's very numbers oriented, it's always good if we end up agreeing on picks, because it's like, I like to say it's where stats meet sniffs. Many times I try to like foresee things, the way things are going to play out, opposed to relying on hard numbers. Because like, I know many times in the NHL, someone was like, do you realize that the Maple Leafs are giving up 18 shots a game to left wingers? Oh yeah, well, if they're playing teams with the best left wingers, then yeah, they're going to do that. But rolling a team with no good left wingers, and it ain't going to look like that. Just certain things like that where I won't swear by the numbers and whatnot. I think I remember one off season, I think I just seen you saying, 8th straight night taking hockey. You just went to Odd Shopper. You picked like the highest like return on investment, and you just kept betting them and whatnot.
Yeah. And the other thing too, which I'm a big believer in, is just trusting the data and the numbers. And this really applies to everything that I do that incorporates sports. And it doesn't mean that it is the end all be all, right? Like, you could have a differing opinion here and there on a data point for, you know, maybe some well-informed reason. But a lot of times people's objections to data are kind of just based on like, hey, I watched 3 games last week. That's not what my eyes told me. It was something different. And to me, it's like, oh, okay, but do you think your eyes are better than the data? Especially because, think of it this way, right? There are 82 games in an NBA season, 162 games in a baseball season, and people will draw these conclusions. They'll say like, this guy is good, this guy isn't good. And I know because I watched the games. And you know, I'm sure that people have their own biases and opinions that they draw from watching the games, but numbers and data, they don't forget. They recall everything. And if you think, like, you're really into hockey, right, Andy?
Yeah.
And what's your favorite team?
The New York Islanders.
Okay, so you're an Islanders fan. Do you have certain players on the Islanders who you just are biased towards? You go, this guy is the best defenseman, the best goalie, or whatever. Or maybe it's the other way where the team has sucked for such a long period of time. Do you're biased to think all the players suck?
I just want to throw one quick thing out before we get to that. The current record that every team in the 4 major sports are trying to break is the most consecutive playoff series wins. The most, like the Golden State Warriors were trying to get there. They tried to win 19 straight playoff series. And the last team in pro sports to do that was the New York Islanders. So anytime that I need to feel bad about the current state or situation, I know that there's a current record still trying to be beat, and it ain't the 85 Bears with 1 year. That's 5 straight Stanley Cup appearances with 4 wins in there. Anyway, going back to what you said, yeah, of course we have. I mean, I like to think I don't have a favorite player on the team, so that should probably at least. I believe that I'm more objectionable, maybe even closer to like the Philadelphia harsh on the team than most.
So here's something that will happen like pretty often where people will say, I know that this player on my favorite team, like if you're a Maple Leaf fan, Austin Matthews is the best player in the NHL. It isn't Connor McDavid. And then people say it's because I'm a Maple Leafs fan and I've watched every single Austin Matthews game. Here's the flaw in that logic. How many times do you watch Connor McDavid play then? If you are telling me that you know that Austin Matthews is the best player in the NHL because you watch every single hockey game that he's played in, but you haven't watched any of Connor McDavid, well, your eye test now no longer serves any purpose because you've watched one player play every game. You haven't watched any of the other players play. You haven't seen their opponents or anything like that. So there's a massive context that's missing, which is why for me, ultimately, I just kind of trust in the data. And every once in a while, I might feel like, boy, I don't know about this. And I'll just go with it anyway, because I find in the long run, if I'm looking at stuff like Odd Shopper that I know is a proven track record of being profitable, if I just trust the data over time, it's going to do better than what I can kind of guess based on what I think should be the results based on my eye test, if that all follows.
It definitely does. The only error that I'm seeing compute right now, and maybe it's why I'm not watching you on Last Comic Standing, when you were thinking about potentially getting into comedy, I can't imagine those return on investment numbers going through your head, because if you brought those to Shark Tank, they wouldn't be too thrilled to hear about them. What were your thoughts? How did you justify in your head if you were going to go down a route of being a comedian, or what would you say to a younger version of yourself if you were going to potentially do that?
Yeah, so because you and I we've met for the first time like 40 minutes ago. Like we've sent messages back and forth over Slack, but we've never like actually talked face to face. So for me, the reason I started doing stand-up comedy the day after I graduated college. I told you this before, where the day after I got out of college, I was convinced I didn't want to work a real job. I showed up to an open mic and was like, let's go do comedy. So the reason I stopped, though, it wasn't like an ROI consideration or anything. I had health issues and I physically wasn't able to anymore. So to me, if I didn't get sick, I would have probably still been doing comedy. Who knows how well it would have gone with, COVID and shit getting shut down. So the way that I ultimately wound up getting into DFS and sports betting is when I was no longer physically able to do comedy, and I was going to see a bunch of doctors. I was in and out of the hospital. I was living in my parents' basement at the time. I was just bored as shit. And I was just into basketball a lot at the time. So I started playing DFS, got into it, started making a little bit of money. And then I started writing blog posts. I started doing a podcast by myself and built up a following. And it just led to more opportunities to get work within that space. And then as I did more work, I also got more and more profitable in DFS. And then all of a sudden sports betting became legalized and I started doing that. So it was never a thing where I was sitting doing an ROI calculation in my head. It was more so kind of what you had said before, where you said that your theory on entertainment, a lot of this was happening off camera. So people don't know exactly what it is that I'm talking about, but I'm trying to give some context, where Andy had said that his theory in terms of entertainment is you just put your head down and you just move forward, work hard, and just kind of see where it takes you. And that's what I did, right? I just kind of did what was available to me at the time in the circumstance I was in. And I had no plans of doing anything. It was just one opportunity led to another. And this is just kind of where I landed.
So the PUP brought you to DFS. That's a pretty amazing story. I mean, not that you get all too many feel-good stories on here, but if you think about that, you took circumstances that don't sound too amazing and you really made it into something. I mean, were you a big sports fan?
Yeah, so growing up as a kid, and I still, I very, very much love sports, right? Like my every night, I'm watching basketball. It's a totally different context though, because when I was a kid, I had these teams that I really, really rooted hard for, and I can't even relate to that anymore. Like I can't wrap my head around the way I watched sports as a kid, where I was really into the Giants, I was really into the Yankees, I was really into the Knicks. Now it's, oh my God, I have 70% of this player in my lineup. I'm watching a game for an individual player and rooting for their fantasy points. Or if I have bets, I'm watching him. It's like, oh, I need this team to win by at least 3.5 points or something. I can't even relate to just watching a game for just straight entertainment purposes with no real money on it in the same exact way. Because my rooting interests are totally, totally different. I still watch a lot of Giants games with my dad, and I'm like, boy, he's worked up about nothing. He doesn't even win any money if the Giants win this game.
I know. We're desensitized. It's like we've seen some of the craziest crime out there, and then if somebody stubs their toe, it's like, yeah, that ain't moving the needle for me. We're just too desensitized, and the more that you win, the less that even the smaller wins move the needle for you. It's a crazy conundrum that just naturally kind of happens. What I want to know, I've been saying for years, I have a joker quality about me. It's like sometimes I'd rather it has nothing to do with money. That some things are for their own reasons. I've been saying I don't even want to win the millionaire tournament. I'd rather win the power sweep because I've wanted to win it. And I don't even need the 150K that comes with it. I want to win a power sweep tournament. And then just, I don't know, I have this thing called the boardroom. It's a congregation of people who have wanted to screw me my whole life. And I just want to give them the collective middle fingers by winning the power sweep. So I just want to know, when you completed that tournament victory on week 1, I think, of the NBA season, when it's done, do you have like that? Do you have like a Tiger Woods fist pump by yourself in a room? You seem like such a subdued guy. Or do you just rationally think, well, there's going to be a stretch where I probably run cold and, some of this might be gone. So yeah, it was a good week.
Yeah, I didn't really give a shit. I mean, I shouldn't say I didn't care. I shouldn't say I didn't care, but it was more so the analytical side where it's like sometimes I win money, sometimes it's more money than other days, sometimes I lose money, sometimes it's more than other days. But in the long run, like I've been doing this for so long now where I've been playing DFS, betting, putting out content was like a little bit afterwards, but like my primary source of income has been DFS and sports betting for, let me think, 7 years now. And so I've just seen so many of the swings, the up and downs, that it's like I kind of know where it's going. It's like I started the NBA season really, really well, like impossibly well. I couldn't have run better. Like first day of the NBA season, I win a tournament on FanDuel for $10,000. A couple days later, I win one on DraftKings for $110,000 overall. I had a bunch of good days in between. I had a bunch of bets that were running hot. And I know it's going to go the other way at some point too, where I'm going to have some downswings over the course of the season as well. So it's just, I know that it's going to happen at some point. So because I already know going into the season, I'm going to win some tournaments. Like I've already anticipated that it's going to happen. It's kind of the same as talking about comedy, where people will say, like, how do you deal with bombing? Right? Like, what do you do when it goes poorly? When I go into starting, when I was doing stand up, if I'm working out new material or I'm doing a show, I always know there's some percentage chance that I'm going to eat shit and it's going to go poorly. So if you anticipate that the bad thing can end up happening at some point, or that the good thing, like you could kill, like you just never get too high or too low because you know that comes with the territory.
Yeah, I've always said when it comes to that, if you've ever done well, then you don't have to beat yourself up about not doing well. If you've never done well once, then there's reason to be, nervous and upset. But if you know that you've done a good job before, then there's a multitude of reasons why it could have happened. Could have not been the right crowd, couldn't have been not the right time. Maybe you're going ahead of somebody who's like completely different of you, and that's who people came to see. There are a whole variety of factors. But if you've ever done well before, you can always default into your head. I've always gave this advice when I was talking to like guys. If you're gotta try to go talk to a girl, there's nothing more devastating with somebody who's never been successful in that, because one rejection will ruin his whole life. But if I've had good days, so if I get shot down, I go, well, I can just kind of blame it on them because I can default back to the things and times where it's actually worked. It's not you, it's me. So I do understand that to a certain extent, but I guess I guess just your God-given subdued nature serves you well, because I don't know, maybe it's the Italian side of me. Middle fingers got to be going. Oh yeah, it's not even joy. It's so you're from New York?
New York, New Jersey area. So I live in northern New Jersey. That's where I grew up. I lived in New York for a period of time when I was doing stand-up also.
It's even that much more impressive. It's that much more impressive that you're chill, because the likelihood, I get it. You're from Arizona. What do you have to be upset about? But if you're from northern Jersey and you have such a chill disposition, that really is a great, I envy that. I want to be able to win a tournament and say, just happens to be a good week. Oh no, I'm going to look like one of these Belzerian guys. I'm going to be on a boat somewhere. I'm just going to be doing the dumbest things humanly imaginable. But maybe that's why they're not allowing me to win the power sweep. When I finally go, it's going to be no boat for me. I'm just going to sit there and pop a cup of tea, and it's on to the next day. Maybe that's when I'll take it. Maybe it's this weekend. Am I going to be seeing you on that power sweep list?
Could be. We will see. I am going to call bullshit on one thing though. I find it very unlikely you don't want to win the Millie Maker. That if you had the option to win the Millie Maker or the power sweep, I think you're taking the Millie Maker.
You underestimate my cynical nature. I've never done anything for money. When I came to them at Odd Shopper, it was all about just, you guys, I got to do for you what The Rock did for the WWE. Nobody cares about any of these bets. I literally said, nobody cares. Somebody would rather see somebody talk sports that is entertaining. They'd rather lose in an entertaining fashion than win in a boring fashion. And I know it's a sick thing to say. But it's true. It is true. And that's why I always try to encourage everybody to do that. I mean, the NFL has taken my advice for years now. That Tom Brady court case, they're rolling it out there. My mom's coming, did you see what Tom Brady? My mom doesn't give a rat's ass about the NFL, but when you mix that stuff in with sport, drama sports and stuff like that, it worked for the WWE, worked for the NFL, and I can assure you it will work for sports betting. And the first people who really capitalize on the entertainment aspect, and then if you're able to win as well, that will only take it through the roof. That's why, we got you in here just cracking tournaments. Hopefully me in here cracking an absurd theory or two. And then maybe that will be the winning formula. But thank you so much for coming on. I don't know is there anything you want to drop to me? I know you've been putting out your props, or maybe one of the things that you've been putting out, because it's one of the most ridiculous things. I don't know if you heard me say it before, but you'll see this Kevin James meme retweeted 600,000 times. Meanwhile, you got somebody here running hot with these props. There should be 600,000 retweets on somebody who's handing away money. If you showed up like the Joker in Times Square on that truck, 1989 Joker, that's always the real one to me, Nicholson, and there's money pouring from the skies, people are going to be showing up. And it's amazing to me when you're on this run with DFS and sports betting that there's not a stack of people. And it ain't just me. I'm considering watching basketball. So if you're out there, make sure you're checking Greg's stuff. I may even have an NBA prop in tonight or two.
Oh, look at you. So by the way, Heath Ledger is the real Joker. That aside, because he was more committed to the character. He wasn't a Joker.
He wasn't a Joker. He had one moment of joking, and it's when he clicked his heel and a blade came out of his toe. Everything, the death via handshake buzzer, killing people with makeup products that leaves them smiling, having chattering teeth next to your dead body, that's a Joker. The other guy is just a pissed off guy, albeit great character. Not enough joking in that Joker. And I know that's a tough take to say, but if Heath Ledger was alive, it wouldn't be considered the same way. It's the death that brought it to it's the death that brought it to that level, because they never handed out Academy Awards either to people who partook in action movies and stuff like that. So once he got the award for that, then the narrative built up. That Jack Nicholson Joker has so many moments in that movie. If I was to tell you, ask you like to take the 5 moments from the Ledger Joker and the 5 moments from the Nicholson Joker, it's a tough matchup if you go shot for shot, but I get it. That's the narrative. And don't say this is a generation thing. I was prime early 20s when that Ledger Joker came out.
So the another thing too though is if you say like who is Heath Ledger is the Joker. He embodied that character. He lived as that character. This was just a thing that Jack did. This was just part of his career. Heath Ledger was the Joker. That's in his body. He might have gotten buried in the Heath Ledger Joker costume because that is who he is. That's not who Jack is. Jack's a Lakers fan.
I'm sorry. I see 10 things I hate about you, Heath Ledger, smiling, doing, talking to, forgot the name of that girl in high school, going to prom with the girl. There's other Ledgers out there. And anyway, is there any props or NFL NBA that you want to throw out there for tonight for the Francis Friday crowd?
Yeah. What time does the show come out?
Friday, 3:30.
All right, so let's do one of each. I'll go right over to OddsShopper right now on my other screen over here, and I'll say my favorite NBA bet and favorite NFL bet. Like, why does it have to be one or the other? We'll give the people both, and we'll see.
Oh, the more that these people are parlay pirates. They're going to take it. If you say something, I'm scared to give picks now because even if you utter, I was thinking about it, they've added it. If you say I was kind of thinking about throwing it, they've thrown it in. So if you say something, just know those tickets are like, they're all being added right now.
I realized that the other day because I did the tweet thread on Twitter with some NBA bets I did for the day, and the way that I've been doing it on Twitter. It's my second time doing it that I did it today, but it's just like, hey, for every 50 likes this gets, I'll post a bet. So we ended up getting up to 350 likes the other day. So I post 7 bets. Every time I get 50, I post another NBA bet, and the bets go 6-1. The amount of people that got upset at me about the one bet that lost because it ruined their parlay. I'm like, what am I supposed to do here?
It's wild. It's wild. The kids ravaging the Halloween bowls are no different than the people ravaging your picks. I'm rooting for all these people who are watching these videos, but there's nothing you can say. I tell people, if you're going to be a maniac, at least what you gave, how many? 7?
Yeah, 7. It was 7. They went 6-1, and people were way more upset about the one that lost than happy about the 6 that won.
My math isn't good right in my head, but I know if you put $1 on the round robin feature where it will combine every single one of those picks, you would have made a stack of money, and all you parlay pirates would have been able to see all the pirates out there, all the parlays out there, all the 2s, the 3s. If you love parlays, prove it, at least round robin that. This guy went 6-1. Do you know how much money that is? You have to have the discipline. I know you just want to put $10 on the one parlay and change your weekend, but it's just so unlikely that that's going to happen. 6-1, and the majority of people didn't make money. You think that's Greg's fault? I'll let you decide. But on to the next ones they're going to throw in their parlay ticket.
Which is why when you're leaving all the candy in the bucket and you say take only one, you take a shit and you leave it in the bottom of the bucket. So if a kid takes too much candy, guess what? He's got a handful of shit.
Wow, that's even meaner than what I had planned. You see these calm people, they're the most sinister of them all. That whole I don't know what the male version of Lady in the Streets freaking the sheets is, but I'll tell you this, Greg is.
It's the don't fuck with me. If you come at the king, you best not miss. That's what it is, because or else you're gonna wind up with a handful of shit.
Oh, man, this is straight up Breaking Bad vibes. This guy, I'm never saying one remotely mean thing about him ever.
Let's find some bets. Let's find the bets.
Let's go shopping, yeah.
All right.
Did you ever watch Supermarket Sweep?
No, what is that?
How about you, Mike? Have you ever seen Supermarket Sweep?
Unfortunately, I have.
Okay, well, it is a game show that usually was on like Channel 13 or something like that, where it's like The Price is Right meets shopping in a supermarket. I'll kind of just break it down to you. You got to go through supermarket lanes and get as much stuff as you could. The big thing was getting as many expensive items in the cart as you can, but you can only use so many of a certain item. People would always run for those Thanksgiving turkeys, and they'd have a couple of bonus prizes along the way. And when I think of this show, they just had a bonus prize of the Jolly Green Giant, this inflatable Jolly Green Giant that when I think of supermarket sweep, that's what I think of. And there it is. There's supermarket sweep. You look at those maniacs. Those people would run down the aisles with those carts, just filling them with Thanksgiving turkeys. And there were these prizes. Yeah, there's a turkey. Wow, this lady went straight turkey. She has to be disqualified. You can't do that. What the hell is this? Look at the size of that. Out of curiosity, if we were doing that, you're a numbers guy. Wouldn't you go to like the beauty products, like that random hairspray aisle?
Yeah, so it depends where it is that they're shopping. Like, is it a supermarket with an electronics aisle? Because if it's a supermarket with an electronics aisle,
this is pre-electronics. This is pre-electronics. This is early 90s. Think of your chalk supermarket in your local town. That's why there's no Best Buy gift cards. This is when a supermarket had your standard like 8 aisles. And that's what you're getting. I'm almost starting to think, did they even have hairspray and stuff like that in supermarkets in 93?
They had to have. Have you seen people's hair from back then? It was all hairspray.
But I think it was very compartmentalized back then. I think you had to go to a certain place to get hair stuff. I don't think it was included with supermarkets really at the time. It was pretty food oriented at those supermarkets. I don't know. We'll bring on somebody who really went grocery shop. We'll bring my mom on, and she'll let us know what supermarket shopping was like in the early 90s.
Wait, sorry to cut you off. These people are idiots. They're filling up their car with toilet paper. This is the lowest value. Not only is it the lowest value thing you could find at a supermarket, it's spacious. What these people should have been taking, you'd go with steaks. They're compact. They don't take up a lot of space. It's the most expensive thing at the supermarket. Even this, I'm thinking in terms of EV. These people are all, look, she's trying to put an old lady in her cart. You don't want to take care of that. Very expensive old people.
They heard a pandemic was coming. They knew what everybody was going to be doing. They wanted to, they say, hey, look, I'll lose the game. But in case everyone starts hoarding toilet paper, at least I know I got my secret 90s stash. And I imagine there had to be more hemorrhoids caused by early 90s toilet paper. You know, there wasn't that Charmin Extra Soft back then. People take for granted the subtle advancements that have happened along the way. Anybody born after 2000, your asshole is probably pretty nice these days, and you don't even know it. Hopefully as nice as Greg's bets. All right, Greg, you had some time. I bought you some time to go shopping yourself over at
You did, except now I'm thinking about assholes. And you know what you'll find? This is what I spend my money on when I win it. You know what you'll find in my bathroom? A bidet. A bidet. You save money on toilet paper, and you're gonna have the cleanest butthole in the area. And that's what everybody.
Do you go cold water or medium?
I go meat. Like I'm not trying to create a second asshole. I go meat.
All right, so why don't you fill us up with some of these bets that you got lined up? How about you start in my end of the spectrum with NFL? Well, my end would be NHL, but let's start our cross section on the Venn diagram. A little bit of NFL.
Sure. So if we're going ahead and we're looking at NFL, a piece of news that we got shortly before this show started, actually, Andy, starting running back for the Carolina Panthers this week, it is not going to be Miles Sanders starting. It is going to be Chuba Hubbard starting at running back for the Panthers. His over-under for receiving yards, 10.5 this weekend.
Wow.
And that's absolutely, I got a real bidet, not that piece of garbage there on the screen, Mike. So Chuba Hubbard, who's been very involved in the passing game when he's been on the field for the Panthers, also kind of correlates before you and Loughy are going back and forth about the Colts and the Panthers, the spread, and how it's expected to be a competitive game. And Chuba Hubbard, in some of the 2-minute drills or times that the Panthers have been trailing this year, he's been on the field in passing scenarios in those kind of situations. He's going to be starting a running back today, or sorry, not today, on Sunday, over under 10.5 receiving yards. Give me the over on that. That's a very low number.
And if I could even add on to that, if I didn't agree with it, I would just kind of say, oh yeah, cool. What's the next one? But Chuba Hubbard, he's been playing in that third down role for years now. Even years ago even when they brought in Foreman there, it would be him coming in on third down. He was playing third downs with Darnold last year. He is a receiver to begin with. He has years as a receiver in that role. So you give him increased snaps, the opportunity to even catch one of those check downs or something. We know how many catches Miles Sanders was getting earlier this year. Oh man, I'm going to smack that one. Real nice. I like that. That's a great supermarket sweep round 1 for you. Now I don't know how I'm going to judge this one. We'll see. Let's see if I can even guess the team the player you name is on.
Okay, I'll do an easy one then. An easy one. Luka Doncic team.
Oh, anybody with Balkan roots, I'm going to know. Okay, I have Croatian in me. If their last name ends in itch, I root for them and I know about them. So that's a bad one. I obviously know him. But anyway, yeah, give the Doncic if you want to give a prop for him.
Towards starts of the season for Luka, he's got really high props for today, but Kyrie Irving coming back. Kyrie missed the last couple of games with a foot injury, and with Kyrie back in the mix, the over-under for points on Luka is still 31.5. Really tough matchup on the road in Denver. But we're going to see some decreased usage on Luka now that Kyrie is back in the mix. So under 31.5 points for Luka Doncic.
I like that. So we obviously know Jokic, Doncic. Because I'm slightly removed, do we still have Nurkic up there in, is he up there in Portland?
He's on Phoenix now.
Okay. Whatever happened to my 3-point shooter, Teletovic?
Oh, Mirza Teletovic? I think he retired 8 years ago or so.
Cool. Where's my guy Goran Dragic?
Is Goran Dragic on a team this year? He has not played this season. Let's see if he's a free agent or not. All right, is Goran Dragic on a team right now? Goran Dragic is not on a roster this season. Still a free agent.
How's my guy Vucevic?
Vuce is having a solid season. The Bulls are absolutely dog shit, but he's been solid for them.
Okay. And then how's Bojan Bogdanovic?
So there's Bojan Bogdanovic and Bogdan.
Yeah. And no relation.
No relation. But part of it is because I think in Slovenia, it's like Bogdanovic is like Smith there. So it's just like you go down the street and it's just everybody has the same name. Like, hey, Bojan, Bogdan. It's all the same there. Like Tim Smith, that's the Bojan Bogdanovic.
They like to think that. I could assure you it's not. But yeah, so how the Bogdanovic is.
Both good.
That's good. And I think I pretty much, one of my dreams is to have the Yugoslavian dream team. That's what they call them. Play the U.S. dream team, I forget what the starting 5 they listed was. A couple of Bogdanovic's. I think it was Jokic, Doncic, and I forget who the other one was. I'd love to see that, like when the Soviet Union came over here and played the NHL All-Stars and stuff like that. We're never going to get it. But anyway, how about we go on? That was a nice little, that was me tipping my cap to the Yugoslavians in the league. Where are we going next? Now I'm going to have to play the trivia game of this next player you're going to give me. Who do we got next on the docket?
Oh, that's it. I'm not going to give away too much.
Okay.
People want more.
How about this?
Go ahead.
Just say me the name that you see to your right.
Ooh, okay. So here's something I'll do. I'll look at, because I had some bets that I posted on Twitter today. So let me see. I don't want to make it too difficult, right? Like, I don't want to make it as a player that you have no chance of knowing.
I'm not a true piece of trash. I should, just by casually living.
Okay.
I'll see some of them.
It's
no clue.
All right. So he's an all-star. Tyrese Halliburton's an all-star.
He sounds like a guy on the Utah Jazz.
He's on the Indiana Pacers.
All right. Well, from what I saw the other night, the Golden State Warriors are still rolling out the team from like 6 years ago.
They have the difference they have now is they have Chris Paul. So Chris Paul is now coming off the bench for them, and it's a fun team. Very old, a lot of veterans on the team. But let's see, is there?
Can I tell you my problem with the NBA and why it's tough for me to watch it? It's a classic hockey basketball argument. It has to be had more. But people don't do it without screaming. It's hard for me to watch when you have NHL guys that give it all on a nightly basis. There's no such thing as taking a game off. If you do, like, your coach will straight up bench you if you're lollygagging out there for long stretches. And then the fact that if you're a fan, you can't even hope to get a good draft pick and rebuild like in the NFL, NHL, or something like that, because the minute they don't feel like playing there, they go, nah, I want to leave. And then the GMs capitulate. So if you're a fan of I don't know, whoever drafted, was it the Pelicans, and you had like Davis, then he's going to get shipped off because he wants to play somewhere else. Then they draft Zion. I don't even know how he's doing, but when he wants to leave, if he already hasn't left, he's going to get to go somewhere else. It's like a hopeless rotating carnival cruise where it's like, do fans even have emotional ties to the players who get to just leave on a whim? So when you couple that with like the non-caring, it's hard. It's real hard for me to watch as a hockey fan.
I'm going to give you one more, and then we could finish out my segment like this. One more player.
All right.
Cole Raggins.
Man, sounds like a UFC fighter from the South. Cole Raggins. Oh, man. Cole Raggins sounds like he plays for the Dallas. No, we already talked about a Dallas player. Cole Raggins. The Pelicans.
All right, so I'm fucking with you. He's a pitcher for the Kansas City Royals.
Oh, that's the other sport. Yeah, I haven't watched a baseball player since Ruben Sierra. I said this before. That's why, at least though, I get credibility. You know, when I do make my videos, I'm not one of you pros. I don't know all the numbers and that, but there are two sports that at least I focus all my energies on. And that's the best that I can say about it. You know, a ton of hockey, ton of NFL, not college football. But when it comes to baseball, as soon as Francisco Liriano left the league, I heard he was like still playing last year. I think I was out. I don't think I remember anyone. And then Adam Wainwright, all the last of the Mohicans, I think, are finally gone. So I think that means I am too.
Yeah, Adam Wainwright just pitched this year for like he was terrible this year. Was one of the worst pitchers in baseball, but he came into the season with 198 career wins. So they kept throwing him out there to give up like 6 runs in 3 innings every single start to try to get him to his 200th career win.
Wow.
And until he could finally
10 times they did it. It wasn't like once or twice. They did it for 2 months and everybody knew it.
Are you a baseball guy?
Yes,
you said you were a Yankees
like
fan, right? Do you remember 2006? The Murderers Row in Cano?
2006 was a good year for me.
And then they lost to Jeremy Bonderman and that old guy, Kenny Rogers Chicken, were putting snot on the ball, they said they found after the games. I remember that, and I'm not even a baseball guy. I just turned my back on it after it got, too boring. That's what I do here. On a show about sports, I shit on most of the pro sports. Isn't that nice? All right, everybody, thank you guys so much for coming back. Thank you, Greg, for coming. I know it was your first time. It's great to finally meet you. Happy to learn about your story. See, thank you for telling me about the comedy thing. And I also am sorry for willingly sharing that without asking you. I didn't know. Yeah, you never know. Some people live double lives, and I'm not a rat. I want to keep things under wraps if people don't want to talk about them. Thank you for coming on. Greatly appreciate it. All you guys, if not now, when? Because if you're looking to tail somebody who's dishing out some winners, and if you throw likes on his posts, he's putting more out there. So definitely check him out on Twitter and whatnot. Check out Dave. You obviously got me on there. It's at Andy Francess on all social media platforms. And here's a great thing about all Greg's bets. You don't want to parlay them all? Well, here's what you can do. Join Bet365. If you're a new user over there and you make a $10 deposit and bet $5 on anything, they're going to give you $150 in bonus bets that you could sprinkle on all of Greg's stuff. And if you saw his ROI chart this year, it's pretty goddamn good. So you go over there and do that. There's a link in the description of this video, 3 separate ones, one for US users, one for Canadian users, and one for international users. Everybody in the Balkans, all my people over there, you need a link. There's one for you as well. You bet 5, get 150. But make sure that if you or anyone you know has a gambling problem, you call 1-800-GAMBLER. All right, we'll be back with you guys next week to bring another round of tomfoolery. You'll always get some entertainment and some guests. We always appreciate you coming back. Make sure you're subscribed here on the Odd Shopper channel. Click that bell for notifications and all that good stuff. We will see you next week. Good luck this weekend.